Hi, I'm Anne Pollard, and this is the reading of my book, Cleo's Fabulous Adventures, The Realm of the Woods. Chapter 23, Uriel the Unicorn. Bacchus laughed at Thoth's return to the pond. He turned to Cleo and said, "Okay, Cleo, now we have something wonderful to see. Are you ready for the next big thing?" "Oh yes, Bacchus, but how could it get any better?" answered Cleo. Bacchus laughed again. "Cleo, what is yet to come is beyond your wildest imagination." He then turned to move away from the pond and meadow and pick up the new path. Cleo and Zuriel followed, both smiling broadly. The path led away from the meadow as the landscape began to change. The trees started disappearing. The grasses slowly disappeared as well. The path became more and more barren as they moved on. As they ventured further, there seemed to be nothing at all. No nature, no sounds, no smells. Cleo thought, what a strange place we must be going to. Up ahead, there seemed to be a veil in front of them that covered everything they could see. It had no start, no end. It had no top, no bottom. It was transparent, but they could not see through it. There was a light behind it that seemed to be oozing out through the ethereal veil. As they reached what felt like the veil itself, Bacchus stopped. Then he turned back to Cleo and said, "Cleo, this is a very magical place we are about to enter. I hope it brings you incredible joy." Bacchus turned back to the veil and walked straight through it. Zuriel took Cleo's hand and followed. As they entered into this magical place, there was an overwhelming feeling of peace and playfulness. The vibrations were actually palpable, and the energy running through Cleo's body was electrifying. It was completely silent, but the brightness of this loving light was so intense that Cleo felt she had to squint. It wasn't as bright as the light she first saw when she and Bacchus entered the forest through the tree, but it was very close. There was no landscape, no color, no sounds, no smell. Only an ethereal feeling of nothingness. Bacchus walked a few more feet into the ether and stopped. Cleo and Zuriel stopped behind him. Then Bacchus lifted his head and waited. He stood completely still. Out of the ether then came the most beautiful sound Cleo had ever heard. It was very high-pitched, but very pleasant to her ears. It wafted through the nothingness and filled the space with an amazing harmony and incredible voice. It was as if the most beautiful opera singer was doing her final aria. The notes were pitch perfect, the breathwork was amazing, and the song lulled you into the most wonderful, loving trance. Cleo could not see where the sound was coming from, so instead, she just closed her eyes and felt the sounds move through her body. It felt like waves and waves of love flowing over her. She felt alive, youthful, and yet incredibly peaceful. She was so lost in herself that she barely heard Bacchus speak. "Greetings, Uriel," said Bacchus. Cleo opened her eyes and was so amazed she could not contain herself. Before her stood the most magnificent unicorn. It was much larger than a normal horse, and of course it had a single horn coming from its forehead. The horn was made of muted colors of the rainbow. It twisted into a spiral as it emerged from Uriel's head. And the glow, oh, the glow. It was the most outstanding aura of yellow, orange, and white light. Uriel had large, fabulous wings. They were spread out to reveal the intricate feathers that were woven together. Like Zuriel's wings, there were shimmers of gold running through them, while the rest was pure white like his body. His mane was rather short and mostly stood up on his neck. Cleo had to stop to catch her breath. She was in complete awe. Uriel knew what Cleo's reaction would be. The unicorns were used to that by now. So he just let her settle into the space for a bit. Time was irrelevant, so it didn't matter how long they just were. After a long while, Uriel said, "Hello, Bacchus. So fun to see you again, my dear one, and love to you, Cleo. It is our greatest joy to see you here with Zuriel. The unicorns have a strong connection to the angelic realm, and we love to see our angel friends." Zuriel took a deep bow and said, "And it is my great pleasure to see you as well, Uriel." Cleo took a deep breath and said, "Hello, Uriel. Wow, this is way beyond my wildest dreams." Uriel took a deep bow and said, "It is our honor to have you here. You have raised your vibration to be able to see us, and we are so pleased you have found that power within you. Love to you, my dear one." As Uriel spoke, his horn seemed to channel the light that was all around, and it began to glow. Uriel continued after shaking his broad head. A surge of beautiful music rose in the background. "Cleo, we are pleased to show you some amazing things during your time with us. It's quite rare that we have the opportunity to spend so much time with a human. We're grateful to Bacchus for arranging this. Because you've raised your vibration, you now have access to many things in the non-visible world. So, let's take an adventure, shall we?" Cleo was so excited she was shaking. "I would be so grateful to take an adventure with you, Uriel," she said. "Good, my dear one. I think it would be most exciting to actually visit these non-visible things. Are you ready to take a ride with me?" Cleo couldn't speak, so she just nodded yes. "Okay, climb up on my back and we will be off." Zuriel lifted Cleo up so she could sit on Uriel's back. She sat right behind his neck, her legs straddling his immense body. His wings were spread out fully behind her. "Now grab my mane, let go of your worries, and let's go play." Cleo grabbed his mane with both hands as Uriel lifted off out of the nothingness. He flapped his large wings to ascend. The movement was so smooth that Cleo barely felt like they were moving. She started to laugh. As Uriel flew upward, they flew out of the fog of nothingness into space. It was dark, but lit up by millions of stars. Cleo could see nothing below them but more space. As they continued flying, she began to see planets. It was so quiet that Cleo had no trouble hearing Uriel as he spoke. "Cleo, do you know what your planetarian origin is?" "I didn't know I had a planetarian origin," Cleo answered. "Well then, my dear one, I shall show you," said Uriel. Uriel headed for a group of stars and planets up ahead. "We are going to the Pleiades," he said. As they flew closer, Uriel continued. "All humans have a galactic origin, Cleo. Your origin started from the Lyrian lineage, but your basic DNA is a combination of Lyran and Earth primates. When that Lyran branch decided to leave Earth, they joined with the pure Lyrans and started the Pleiadian civilization. And that is your true origin." Uriel was now in the Pleiadian star system, so he stopped and hovered in the middle of the magnificent stars. There were 7 stars grouped together, and they glowed brightly with a luminous blue hue. The Pleiadians have been through their own work to balance the masculine and feminine energies and raise their vibration and frequency. They did a lot of deep soul searching and inner work in order to make that shift. Now they are some of the most loving people in the universe. That's where you get a lot of your tendencies for love and compassion for others on Earth. And the Pleiadians are helping humans to remember their galactic origins and teach them how to do their own inner work, so they can raise their consciousness and their frequency. Cleo was trying to take this all in and remember everything that Uriel was saying. She repeated some of it out loud to help her remember. So, I'm part Lyran and part Pleiadian, and I get my tendencies from mostly the Pleiadian energy. That's why I have a loving and compassionate nature. Are all humans Lyran and Pleiadian? She asked. Well, dear one, said Uriel, humans are a genetic mix of many galactic families. That's why there is such a huge diversity in your bodies and skin color, eye color, and hair textures. We are amused when humans call others in various dimensions extraterrestrial, because humans are the most extraterrestrial ones there are. One day you will all remember your galactic origins. It is part of your game on Earth. Cleo laughed at Uriel's attempt at a joke. There are so many other realms as well, said Uriel. Would you like to see? Oh, yes, exclaimed Cleo. Good, dear one. Then let's be off. Uriel flew through the stars and into another place of nothingness, only to emerge into a wonderful, playful realm of sprites and fairies. I think you've already met some of the fairies, Cleo, said Uriel. Yes, they're so cute and so much fun. We saw them when we met Fairy the Fox. Well, this is where they reside. They can come and go as they please through several dimensions, and they are great fun. Remember, Cleo, this is all meant to be fun. Playing is so important for humans. It brings you joy, which is the highest emotion. It connects you back to all of this, the universe, the multiverse, the true nature of who you really are. And now, on to another realm, said Uriel, as he flew away from the fairies. Next they visited a very different realm. This, dear one, is the realm of the dragons, said Uriel. As they approached, Cleo could see all sorts of dragons. They were all different colors, and their scales were luminescent and glistening. They were huge creatures. As they approached, Cleo could sense the love and peace of this place. Wow, said Cleo, this is amazing. Look at all of the dragons. Yes, said Uriel. The dragons came here when humans started to demonize them and hunt them. That was a long time ago in your Earth years. But before that, humans had a very special relationship to the dragons. So even though they're no longer in physical form on the Earth, you can still connect to their energy when you ask. They're happy to come and show you their incredible magic. Cleo laughed to herself. I guess Bacchus was right, she thought. All of these things really do exist, and I didn't believe him. Uriel laughed at Cleo's thought. Yes, Cleo, all of it does exist, and more. Bacchus would never be anything but truthful. And speaking of Bacchus, perhaps we should get back, dear one. He and Azrael will be waiting for you. Cleo nodded. Uriel turned and headed back to the unicorn realm. They arrived after one last fabulous flight through the stars. Uriel landed gently and stopped. Azrael walked over and lifted Cleo off of Uriel's back and set her back down on the ground. He could feel the excitement in her body and saw a new glow in her eyes. Looks like you and Uriel had a grand adventure, said Azrael. Oh, Azrael, said Cleo, it was beyond my wildest imagination, and it did bring me incredible joy. And then she looked over at Bacchus and laughed. Uriel laughed along with them. Cleo, remember this as you continue to connect to the light and feel the energy of all that is. Be inspired. Follow your joy. Feel your power and play. That is what Unicorn Spirit can always help you with, dear one. We are all here for you always, in every moment. You only need to ask for our help, and we will be there. Thank you, Uriel, said Cleo. This was so amazing. Uriel bowed his head as his horn glowed even brighter. Bacchus walked over to Uriel and looked up at him. Uriel, you have been a wonderful galactic guide. We appreciate your time, your wisdom, and your love. Until I see you again, I wish you joy. Thank you, dear one, said Uriel. You are always welcome. Zuriel, I'm sure I will see you as well soon. Uriel shook his head as the nothingness began to fill the space, and he faded out into the void. The beautiful sounds of that amazing harmony rose up again as Bacchus, Zuriel, and Cleo turned to leave. Thank you for joining me. Have a fabulous day.